Now, Nigeria's National Assembly passed the 2026 Amended Electoral Act on February the 17th, mandating electronic result transmission. The new law compresses timelines, tightens voter ID requirements, and increases penalties. Now, the 2026 Act reduces election notice to 300 days. Funding must reach INEC 6 months pre-election, with compressed windows for candidate submission and publication. Electronic transmission to the IReV is now compulsory. The BVAS remains the accreditation standard, while physical EC8A sheets serve as primary backups during technical failures. Registration is limited to NIN passports as a traveler's passport or the birth certificate. While PVCs are mandatory, voters can now download cards online to prevent disenfranchisement. Indirect primaries have now been abolished, leaving only direct primaries and consensus candidature. Parties retain autonomy over these modes, though internal guidelines now regulate direct primaries. The amended law introduces a tougher stance on misconduct. Statutory fines and custodial sentences for electoral offences have been adjusted upward from the 2022 standards. I'm now being joined in the studio by the head of Northern Operations and Abuja Bureau Chief Amadin Uyi. Thank you for joining us, Amadin.
Thank you, Newton.
Some will say, why did the president rush? But he has signed it. It's now a law. We now have the Electoral Act 2026. But this happened in the midst of cries, hues and cries by the citizenry. Why do you think this was rushed, seemingly rushed?
Okay, I think we had come to a point where, whether we like it or not, INEC had given a notice about sometime last week, and the former law stated for 360 days. That was why the election was fixed for February. And then the election was already being threatened, and such that there might be a possibility there would be a constitutional crisis, such that the election will not hold. So in the midst of everything, the president has come out to say, I know citizens have expressed their views. The lawmakers have been able to sit down, harmonize the different versions, but now let's put a law so that we have a law for the upcoming elections. Remember notably that that notice of 360 days was reduced to 300 days, which means that the election timetable can be reduced, such that the election can even hold January or even December, because that is 300 days, minimum of 300 days. So we have a situation where the new law has given some sort of flexibility to the process. Also remember that a few days ago, Christian and Muslim faithful have come out to say, wow, this is a time where we have religious obligations.
Yes, we have the Ramadan month and the Lent period.
Yes, so INEC needed to review. But INEC had to act within the constitutional framework, constitutional provision it had. So now that the president has signed the law, INEC has been given that freedom to be able to say, okay, we can listen to your cry and then adjust the date for election. Some people always forget that INEC cannot act outside the law. It is the Electoral Act and the Constitution that is presented to INEC that INEC can act no matter how much Nigerians complain. So now the president has been fair to Nigerians. That constitution which the Senate and the House of Representatives considered to reduce it from 360 days to 300 days, now the president has signed it into law. I think that should be commended.
So, but do you think this law, the 2026 law, will be used for the FCT polls that are coming up this weekend?
It has just been signed to a large extent. I think it will, because it is now a law. The FCT polls is about 7 days. I remember you talked about stricter sanctions for election offences. And INEC had complained in previous years that, see, we don't have the capacity. Even if we catch people snatching ballot boxes, unleashing violence. Remember the unsavory pictures we had in the last elections where you saw thugs took it upon themselves, even if they were arrested. INEC said, we don't have the capacity. So INEC had kept on complaining to the lawmakers, make amendments, make it unpalatable for people to be able to carry out election misconduct.
Yeah.
Because they know that the law is harder. If they are caught and they are prosecuted, the law is harder. It's not a tap on the wrist kind of thing as it used to be before. So for FCT polls now, those who have the mind, who have already made up their
thinking
minds,
of it.
yes, are already thinking of going to unleash mayhem, this will bring violence into the polls. They should just be worried because there's a new law in town.
Thank you very much. Amadin Uyi is our head of Abuja, Northern Operations and Abuja Bureau Chief. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you, Nathan.
We also have joining us Emmanuel Osemeka, a public affairs analyst who joins us virtually. Thank you for joining us, Emmanuel. This law is now, it is now a law, the Electoral Act 2026. But what do you think? Was the president move in time one and in line with the demand of Nigerians?
Well, I mean, the reality is that we have this coming. When you see the Senate president moving in the direction he was moving, and the way they were dancing around the compulsory e-transmission, of course, with the proviso, which the Senate insisted must be there, and of course, having the House of Representatives rescind the decision they concluded in December 2025, and with the level of brigandage that took place, when that decision was taken on the floor of the House yesterday, it showed clearly the direction APC, was going. So it was very clear that APC as a political party had made up their mind, and of course the government had made up their mind the way and manner they desire the 2027 election to pan out. So the president signing it is not surprising to me. But I thought that normally when laws are passed, it goes through bureaucracy. The Attorney General will take a look at it and his team to ensure that there are no contradictions with the Constitution and all that, because the Constitution is a ground. And of course, if you have provisions that infringe on the Constitution, of course, the Constitution will take a precedent. But of course, every government will act according to their understanding, their knowledge, and of course, the vision they have. So we have a new law. That's it. However, I want to say that for the LGA elections coming up in Abuja, the new law cannot take effect because the laws are not retroactive in nature. The plans and guidelines and what have you for the Abuja local government election had already been released and everything had been concluded. So there's no way this new law that was passed today will be used for the FCT election. So I just wanted to put that out.
But I will hear from INEC in the course of the week to look at that. But you said something earlier about the seeming rush that Nigerians will argue, and indeed some lawyers will argue, that if the national anthem could be changed in a day or two, this wasn't actually a rush. I mean, maybe the Attorney General will still have time or had time to look at it before the president signed it. Who knows? But do you think that there might be some gaps in this law that has just been signed? Do you think there might be some gaps that might cause issues even before the next elections?
First, let's pray that there are no clerical issues, just like we had with the new tax law. That's number one. Number two, if you recall, in 2022, when the new electoral framework came out, you recall that even the National Assembly members erroneously excluded themselves from primaries. That was an error. They didn't plan it that way because they hurriedly passed the law. They had 2 years from 2023 till now to make amendments to the last amendment to the 2022 Act. But of course, we all know that there are clear plans, and it remains to be seen how the political implementation of this law would, happen. INEC will be able to come out and tell us. Then, of course, the politicians themselves will also show themselves clearly. But the reality is that we cannot continue to operate like this. This is a major law that guides the planning, implementation, and execution of the general election, where over 91 million registered Nigerians are supposed to vote in, where the lives of 250 million plus Nigerians is decided. I mean, we shouldn't be behaving like this. We can do better than we are doing right now. And I hope and pray that the 2027 general election will throw up, seasoned, dedicated, and very patriotic, honest, sincere Nigerians that will, occupy both the Aso Rock and, of course, the parliamentary seats.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Emmanuel Osemeka is a public affairs analyst who joined us virtually. Thank you for coming in this evening.